Okay, so we're on page 8. That is to say, they're numbered, they're not, it's consecutive, so you're just, in other words, the page that has the numeral 8 on it, not the 8th page. So here's where we are. We're talking about individual providence, hashgacha pratis, where the idea is that God runs the affairs of people. We talked about causation, management, and control. Runs the affairs of individual people on the basis, well, for them. That is to say, he runs them, their affairs, picking them out and running their affairs. And we said that when we ask how divine providence, so to speak, decides what to do for an individual, sometimes what it decides to do for one individual depends upon relationship to other individuals. And sometimes the kind of relationship that you have to other people, which determines what happens to you, makes it feel like you haven't been taken into account. You're not really important. You're not the master of your own destiny, because what happens to you is because of him, not because of you. In other words, he's in a condition, this happens to you. He's in a different condition, that happens to you, without any change in you. That sounds like you're not being taken into account, not sufficiently into account. You're sort of a means for what has to happen to him, but you're not. It's not your life. It's not a contribution to your life and your activity. We said this is not always the case. If the divine providence decides to give me money to support my children, and if I didn't have children, I wouldn't give me that money. I don't feel abandoned. I want to support my children. I identify with supporting my children. To enable me to be a successful father is to help me. So that won't always be that case. But the case that we talked about with Reuven, that does seem to feel like what happens to one person is dependent upon somebody else in such a way that that one person's life is being sacrificed. So let's run through again what happened in the case of Joseph, just to make sure we're on the same page. We had some discussion about it yesterday. And then I'll try to explain to you how it works. The brothers want to kill Joseph. Reuben says to them, don't kill him, throw him in the pit. The question is, what is Reuben accomplishing? What does he think he's accomplishing? Why does he think that he's helping? Especially since we know, and they know, that there are snakes and scorpions in the pit. So he's going to die in the pit. And indeed, that's clear from the context that that's why the brothers agree. The brothers say, you don't want us to kill him with our hands. You want him to die in the pit. Frankly, it's okay with us. We're not concerned whether we shed the blood or the snakes and scorpions kill him. We want him dead. That's all. And why? How do I know that? Because when Yehuda saves him later, he says, "Ma betzaki narogas achinu." What profit will we get if we kill our brother? So clearly, that was the plan, to have him die in the pit. So if Reuven knows that he's going to die in the pit, and that's why the brothers agree, what does Reuven think he's accomplishing? In particular, since the pasuk says explicitly that he did this in order to save Joseph and bring him back to his father. So the Orach Chaim and a bunch of other sources say it as follows. Now, I'm not quoting the words word for word. I'm telling you, as I said yesterday, the elaborate structure which makes it clear. How much merit does Yosef have? We don't know. And there are three possibilities. Either he is such a super tzaddik that God will not allow him to die, period. If the brothers try to kill him, they'll be stopped. If he's thrown into the pit, God will do a miracle and stop them. He's going to die, he's going to live no matter what. If that's true, then Reuven's strategy of getting the brothers to throw him in the pit is unnecessary. It accomplishes nothing, because Joseph is in fact not in danger. Of course, he's not going to die either way. If, on the other hand, Joseph's merit is so little that if the brothers try to kill him, they'll succeed, and if he's thrown in the pit, the snakes and scorpions will kill him, then Reubens' strategy is futile. It doesn't accomplish anything. He's going to die either way. So if he's at the top or bottom of the merit scale, Reubens' action is inexplicable. Why is he doing it? And the answer is because there's another possibility. There's a middle range of merit, and in that middle range of merit, if the brothers try to kill him, they will succeed in killing him. And if they throw him in the pit, then God will do a miracle and save him in the pit. Now it makes a difference. So if Reuven convinces them to throw Yosef in the pit, and if Yosef is in the middle range of merit, then Reuven is saving Yosef's life. Now, of course, he doesn't know where the merit is. But if it's at the top, he's unnecessary. If it's at the bottom, he's not doing anything. But there's the middle range, and it might be the middle range. And if it's the middle range, he's saving his life. That's why he does it. And I say it's like surgery. You don't know surgery is going to succeed, but without surgery, the guy's going to die. So you do the surgery to help. See what you can do. That's the explanation for what Reuven is doing. Let me just say one more sentence, and I'll take your question. And now I think you begin to see where you might feel queasy about this. Because you could ask, what does God want for Yosef? What does he want? Do you want him alive? Then how come if the brothers kill him, he'll die? He wants him dead? How come he puts him in the pit? God's going to do a miracle to keep him alive. What does God want? And the answer is, God wants him to live in the pit and wants him to die if the brothers hit him. But then it sounds like whether Yosef lives or dies depends upon the brothers. After all, if Yosef is in the pit, God will do a miracle to save his life. So is Yosef a good guy or a bad guy? Does Yosef have more to do in this world? Is there unfinished business? For sure, God will do a miracle to save him in the pit. But the brothers could still kill him. So it sounds like he's going to die because of the brothers. That makes you feel uncomfortable. Why should he, if he's a good guy and he deserves to live, how come his life should be cut short because of them, even if God has a commitment to them, but so what? Why should that commitment to them mean that Joseph has to die when he really has more to do and shouldn't die? That's where it sounds like individual providence isn't functioning in the way that we would appreciate. That's the question we're facing. Yeah, you have a question.
So I understand the top two scenarios. Can you just go over the last one?
I'm not hearing you.
The bottom scenario where Yosef has...
In the middle?
The lowest one.
Oh, the lowest one? Yeah.
Is it just impossible for Reuben? It says it's futile, right?
If it were the bottom case, right, then Reuven's efforts will accomplish nothing because he's going to die in the pit also.
Meaning his death would be inevitable.
Inevitable. The verse says that Reuven is convincing them to throw him in the pit in order to save his life. I don't want to know about bank accounts in Australia, and I don't want to know about skiing in the Alps. He's doing this to save his life. And if I assume his merit is so low he'll die either way, then he isn't saving his life. Futile means with respect to his project of saving his life. That's all I'm talking about. Okay, so now, somebody said it yesterday, but I'm going to elaborate. This I heard again from Yaakov Weinberg. There's a background to this. We talked about the top level, the middle level, the bottom level. There are certain features which determine what level you're on. There's a general structure. And the general structure is to ask, when God gives someone life, what is it that justifies, how does God, so to speak, decide to give him life? And there are two possibilities. One is this person's record of accomplishment is so spectacular that with the strictest standards, strict justice, strict judgment, din gomer, he succeeds in deserving to be alive. That's one possibility. From the words that I'm using, you could probably imagine that this is a fairly small percentage, like 0.00001. Okay. Yeah, Avram Avinu, right. The other possibility is this. Yes, held up to the strictest standards, he would not deserve to be alive. But in addition to the strictest standards of justice, God has another principle with which he runs the world called mercy. And mercy says, even though strict justice would require a certain disaster, mercy says don't do it anyway, for various purposes. And I think that if you did a population study, you find that the vast majority of us continue to live because of a healthy dollop of mercy together with the strict justice. Now, said Rav Weinberg, if you're talking about an action of preserving someone against someone else's free will, God's commitment to free will is so strong that if the person whom this one wants to kill is being kept alive only because of mercy, then free will is stronger than that. The commitment to free will is stronger than the deserving of life through mercy. So under that condition, if the brothers want to kill him, then he'll die. That's because of the commitment God has to free will. If you throw him in the pit, there's no free will. It's only snakes and scorpions. So even though he's being preserved by mercy, there might be enough merit to justify a miracle in the pit, which it wouldn't justify in the case of the brothers. But if he earns his right to be alive through strict justice, God will stop the free will also. Because the deserving of life through strict justice is a stronger commitment on God's part than his commitment to free will. Okay, so now let's ask, if he's in the middle level, and on the one hand, if he's thrown in the pit, we said a miracle will be done to save his life. Why? Why will it be done? Well, he's living through some justice and some mercy. How much justice is there? Considerable amount. And there's mercy also. And now the question is whether his merit is enough to justify a miracle in the pit. Yes, it is enough. When he comes standing up against the brothers, he's living through justice and some mercy. At that point, if in order to keep him alive, God has to stop the free will, he won't do that. But why is he in that position? Why will he die? He'll die because, in part, he's living on mercy. To say he's living on mercy means to say he didn't earn it. He's not on the top level. Were he on the top level, where he's earning his life through justice, the brothers would have been stopped. So why is he dying? Because he didn't make it to the top level. It is a reaction to his actions. It's a response to his actions. And it's not that because of the others he suffers. Not totally. Rather, he's put himself in a position where what happens to him depends upon somebody else. But he put himself in that position. Didn't happen beyond his control and beyond his will and beyond his ability. He put himself there. Rav Dessler uses this as a template where he says, when you talk about divine providence for a person, an individual, what's going to happen to him? So you think, well, either my investments will go up or my investments will go down. Forget about your investments. Right? And either my tire will be flat in the morning or it'll be standing in the morning, or I'll find a $100 bill or I'll lose a $100 bill. But a type of decree for a person, an individual providence, can be that he should be a means for someone else expressing free will. That's the decree on him. The decree is you now become a tool by which he expresses his free will. That's also a decree. And that can be tailor-made to the kind of actions that he's done. So when an interaction takes place between Reuven and Shimon, and the decree on Reuven is, Reuven, you now have become subservient to Shimon. You now have become dependent upon what Shimon will decide. Yes, the outcome will be according to what Shimon decides. That's true. If Shimon decides to shoot him, he'll be shot. Shimon decides to give him money, he'll receive money. But it's not that Shimon is overriding Reuven. It's been decreed for Reuven that that's what his position requires, that he should be a vessel, an implement in Shimon's free will. So that being the case, the free will, the individual providence decrees for a person what his actions have brought him to, what is the right position for him personally. It's just that the right position for him personally might depend upon what somebody else decides. So he hasn't been abandoned, and he hasn't been overlooked, and his situation has not been changed from what is right for him by somebody else, even though somebody else may determine what the particular outcome will be. I think that the problem that I sketched, the problem of feeling that my life is out of control, that the individual providence isn't taking account of me, I'm just become a tool. It's taking account of you by making you the tool because that's what you need to be. That would be the answer to the question. Yeah.
First off, does total strict justice exclude the potential of being protected by someone else's true merit? So let's say, what's one? And then the second thing is, what kind of factors go into the weighing of chesed, if any, if more than one goes into it?
You mean rachamim?
Rachamim, right.
Yeah, okay.
Because before it makes
Pardon
sense.
me while I read your mind.
Okay.
I credit you for consistency. Let me see if I understand the first question. It's a little bit interesting. Somebody wants me to live. He's earned that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take his will very seriously. We have a very strong statement in the Talmud. Tzaddik gozev HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekayim. The tzaddik makes a decree and God fulfills it. That doesn't mean that the tzaddik has control over God. Don't play your theological moves here. The idea is that God's commitment to running the world is such that when a person earns a certain level of righteousness, then the rule that he's chosen for the world is that what he wants gets done. Now, he wants me to live. Let's say I'm alive just because he wants me to live. Is that strict justice? Well, it might be strict justice for the other guy. Won't be strict justice for me. For me, it'll be indeed. The other guy is asking that mercy should be applied to me. That's what he's asking for. But the source of the motivation that it should happen will be strict justice for the other guy. I think that's right.
Cool.
That's good. Now the other thing you asked was,
So with justice, it's really intuitive what goes into it, like how many mitzvahs you made, how many days. With rachamim,
yeah.
What's the components that go into? Because it has to weigh up against Gevurah. It has to weigh up against.
Oh, okay.
justice.
So let me give a little background. What you're saying is very good. Let me give a little background. Bring everybody else onto the page. You have to understand what mercy is. This I heard on a tape of Rabbi Dovid Kronglas, who was the Mashgiach in Baltimore, about 130 years ago. Well, when I was in Baltimore in the 70s, when your grandparents were alive. And he said like this: the difference between chesed, which is loving kindness, and rachamim, which is mercy, is the following. Mercy is always a response to justice. Mercy always says to justice, no. Justice demands a certain outcome, and mercy says no. And because of that, mercy has two limitations. Number one, mercy always needs a reason, because mercy is saying no to justice. Justice is also a divine principle for dealing with the world. And if you're going to come along and say that divine principle shouldn't be used, justice will say, well, why not? Give a good reason. And you have to give a good reason. That's number one. And number two, mercy might sometimes be denied because, as you said, it's standing up against justice. And sometimes God will say, no. And in these circumstances, justice has to take precedence. So mercy has to be earned, and it doesn't always work. Chesed, loving kindness, isn't like that. Loving kindness can be an original principle, a reaction to anything else. Loving kindness may say, give because I'm a giver, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but I give because I'm a giver. Loving kindness can be a source for creating the world. Mercy can't be a source for creating the world. Mercy inserts itself into an already living situation. Somebody's done something, and justice has to do this, and mercy comes in and says no. So they're different principles, even though I sketched a few days ago how they're related and how one can generate the other, but they're different. I talked about Chesed sub 1 and Chesed sub 2, and they're different in that way, and that's why only Chesed sub 2 is called mercy. Well, you go back to three recordings, you'll see it. Or it was an evening recording. Okay, so now you say, ask what kinds of things go into it. Well, I think it's varied. I don't imagine that we all would have any would have a complete picture of it. But for example, let's suppose a person commits a crime, which requires a certain punishment. But if that punishment is enacted, that will make it impossible for him to ever recover from the crime. And he is capable of recovering from the crime. And it's far better that he should do tshuva than be punished. So one of the things that mercy does is delay justice. I didn't have this clear until a couple of months ago, but the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, word for word, if a person does tshuva, no punishment applies. Tris bifnei haparonius, he says. No punishment applies. What confused me is that in some cases, even after tshuva takes place, suffering is required. That he says on the basis of Mishnah and Yuma. So that you can't avoid. What I didn't realize was the suffering he's talking about isn't punishment. The suffering he's talking about is rehabilitation. It's like the suffering of surgery. You know, when a person has a break or has a disease and he has to have surgery, he's not being punished for evil. Just surgery is painful. And that's the way he gets cured. So that will be one reason. Justice will say he deserves this, and mercy will say, let's wait 10 years. Because if we'll do tshuva, then justice will be overridden. Then justice will be overridden by chesed, and it won't apply at all. That's one possibility. Number two, possibility can be, like we said before, let's say you punish him, what about his children? If the punishment to him is going to cause his children to suffer, and they don't deserve to suffer, so then mercy will say, yeah, it's true about him, but they don't deserve to suffer, so then it has to be either modified or it has to be abated in some way. So there's collateral damage, so to speak. Rav Dessler gives the following example. We have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, one's the Raisa, one's the Rabbi. We have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, and he says there are two different judgments. One judgment is on the basis of your personal record, and that's the first day. The second day is a judgment on the basis of how much other people depend upon you. And it can be that on the basis of your personal record, you would get one type of judgment, but then all those people who depend upon you need you, and then that could give you a different judgment. So mercy takes into account future possibilities, collateral effects, and things like that, which then stand in the place of justice and say no. Right? By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in ancient statuary, in which until 20 years ago, the United States made use of without fearing mobs that'll tear it down, and from the ancient times, statues of justice are always pictured blindfolded. That's a very good picture of what we're calling justice. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your background is, what your social circumstances are. I don't care who your family is. You did this. This is what you get. Blindfolded. Mercy says, no, don't do it blindfolded. And the justice system is worked in that the judge has a certain freedom of when a person is found guilty to decide what the penalty shall be. You know, there are various ways in which the mercy can be worked in. But justice per se is blind. It's just you did this is what you get. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a question on justice. So I guess on two ends of it. On one end, what does it mean for someone to be deserving let's say, their life? What qualifications do they have to actually meet to be able to say, the life that you live, you deserve it, even with, let's say, harsh justice? And then the other end, too, couldn't someone say, I guess, it's almost like a, how can someone not make the argument like, I exist now, why do I have to, follow these rules? I have no choice in the matter. I guess it's like an anti-natalist point, but I guess the same concept applies, in which I'm born into existence. Why do I have to keep up to these rules in a certain respect? So I guess when I'm asking that question, I'm asking from two different extremes.
Well, the first question I hear, the second question I don't really hear. The first, there are those who say, no matter what you do, no matter how spectacular, you can't put God in the position where he owes you something. After all, he didn't owe you anything by which you had to be created. You exist only because he continuously supports you. In fact, Maimonides points out that in the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, if you look at the vocabulary carefully, you'll see that this is directly implied. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says you should serve God, so to speak, for God's sake, not for your sake, not selfishly. And the word that the Mishnah uses is, don't serve God in order to receive a pras. Amanas kabel pras. So Maimonides says, what is a pras? Pras is not salary. Pras is not reward. That's schar in Hebrew. Pras is a gift. So says the Rambam, you're a slave. You're a slave to God. He doesn't owe you anything. Whatever he gives you can't be reward or salary because you haven't earned anything. It's all a free gift. I don't serve him for that. Mishnah says don't serve him with the condition that that's what you want to get. Should be totally selfless. But he points out, so now if we talk about earning life so that you, through strict justice, you have a claim on life, it's not a kind of strict justice that will bind God, but rather God set down certain rules. And he said, the way I run the world, if you do A, B, C, D, and E, you've earned it, and you have this status of having earned it by satisfying all the rules that I want you to satisfy. And if you don't, then God says, well, you didn't satisfy all the rules, but I have another principle, another methodology. Even if you don't satisfy all the rules, I'll keep you alive also. So it's rules or rules plus leniency. That's the difference between strict justice versus strict justice plus mercy. But it's after the fact of creating the world with its rules. Now, it doesn't go behind that and say, God really owes me. That's one. Now...
Can I rephrase the second part I was going to say?
Yeah.
So that if we're saying from the viewpoint of under strict justice, ignoring words here, just to isolate for justice, I'm still being punished for certain things in which I'm not fulfilling my obligations for. So how can I say, why am I deserving of these punishments if I'm being obligated to do something and I have no say in that obligation?
Oh, but...
That's
okay, fine, but where would you get an idea that I'm only obligated to things that I agreed to? I didn't agree not to steal. Show me where I said I'm not going to steal. Find my statement. Google it. You won't find it anywhere. So give me your wallet. I'm sorry. It's not that I'm bound only by things that I agreed to. Morality doesn't require my agreement. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
As far as I'm understanding, we could perhaps say that every single situation in which strict justice gets activated or enabled is entirely depending of love and kindness. Meaning, like all situation is not really punishment. It's with the function of reaching the higher place, which is the love and kindness that wants this individual to perhaps through mercy or not, depending on the situation, but to get to that higher.
Yes, I think that's right. Now, maybe since you asked it, I'll just sketch how that's derived, because since we've come this far, that's an important piece of background. What he's saying is true, but at first glance, it's a challenging statement. He's saying that the application of strict justice is only for the sake of reaching loving kindness. That's what it's for. Well, if you take a particular case, a particular interaction with another person, to describe it as loving kindness rules out justice. They're incompatible. It cannot be both loving kindness and justice. Because, let's suppose the interaction is where I give somebody something. To say that it's justice is to say that he's earned it, I owe it to him. If I deny it to him, I'm wronging him. To say that it's loving kindness is to say that he hasn't earned it. I don't owe it to him. It's a free gift. That's why it's loving kindness. If he's earned it and I pay him, I didn't show him any kindness at all. He doesn't owe me anything. Shouldn't have necessarily any fine feelings towards me. He worked for it, he earned it, and it's his. I just gave it to him. So at least in a single interaction, loving kindness and strict justice are incompatible with one another. Now you open up the book of Jewish philosophy, it says, oh, everything's based on loving kindness, even justice is based on loving kindness. At that point you should say, what? Really? How does that work? So I'll show you how it works. I said 3 times in the last 2 minutes, a single interaction, didn't I? That's a key, that's a hint. Maybe it's dealing with something other than a single interaction. That would be a good guess. That's because I just told you. When you give someone a free gift, there's a certain insult implied. Why are you giving him a free gift? You give it to me. I want to know why you're giving it. It's your birthday. Oh, that's very nice of you. I appreciate that. When's your birthday? Because if you gave me a gift on my birthday, I'm going to give you a gift on your birthday. I'm not taking charity, thank you. I'm not a failure. I provide for myself. I have enough. I'm prepared to exchange gifts as a matter of friendship. That's fine. But to pour charity into me implies that I'm not making it on my own. Let me give you a brutal example. You're standing at a red light. You're carrying a package. You put it down on the ground, and you're waiting for the light to change. And you pick it up and you look across the street. Somebody walks by and says, can I help you with that package? Let's say, suppose the package weighs 21 pounds. Are you going to say, whew, you're my savior. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's carry it together. I think you'll say, thank you, I can manage. I don't need help with 21 pounds. But it will be lighter, won't it? Yeah, but I don't need help with 21 pounds. Because if I take 12 to help with 21 pounds, I'm presenting myself as an incompetent weakling. And I am not. So pure charity deprives me of my dignity, my self-respect, my honor. Far better that I get something that I earned. We have, Maimonides counts up 8 levels of charity. The best level of charity is to give someone a job. Because not only does he have money at the end of the week to live on, but he earned it. He made it for himself. So you give him the money and his dignity and his self-respect. That's a perfect gift. Okay, listen carefully now what's going on here. You probably know people who are out of work, have been out of work, how terrible that is. It's a tremendous gift to give someone a job. What is a job? What is a job? A job is a relationship that's defined in terms of rules. You work 40 hours a week, I pay you $2,000 a week. You work 36, you'll get less. You're not getting more, but you could get less. Take a day off, I'm going to dock you a day off. $400. So, what kind of relationship is that? Isn't that a strict justice relationship? There are rules, they're applied objectively, no quarter, no second chances, right? The gift is in setting up a strict justice relationship. Because when I set up that relationship, which I don't owe you, I didn't owe you giving you a job, but I set it up to be a strict justice relationship because in that way I give you the most perfect gift. That's where strict justice comes from. That's what this world is. This world is an opportunity to earn what you get in the next world, rather than getting it straight. Because if you got it straight, it would carry this demerit. This is what's called nama de ksufa in the literature, the bread of shame. And the Gemara, the Yerushalmi says, man de ochot alav delay, boys is the kuli ba'pei. He who eats what is not his own is embarrassed to look the giver in the face. Because the fact that the giver gave it to him means he's failing. Okay, there's a lot more to say about that. And the second chapter of the Derech Hashem says something else. It's a whole long story, which I've done many times. But at any rate, this answers your question. This shows how what you said is correct. That when strict justice is applied, it's for the sake of giving the most perfect gift. Now, however, this is what I said a couple of weeks ago. Now, however, if you're doing that to give the most perfect gift, you also have to ask, how many gifts are you going to give? If you have a proposition of strict justice, and you say, I'm giving the most perfect gift, and you offer that to people, how many are going to succeed? I'll give you an example, a practical example. Watts, California, where it's pretty bad. The circumstances are pretty bad. And here comes George Soros, and George Soros, with his benevolence, says to people there, guys, I'm going to turn you guys around. Because I heard this Gottleib talking about, he really didn't, even though he's Jewish. I heard this Gottleib talking about the best way to do charity. And he says, give people a job. I'm setting up a job corps for Watts, California. 40 hours a week, $2,000 a week. Anybody who wants it can have it. How beneficial will that be for Watts, California? Not very, because the vast majority of people there can't work 40 hours a week. They can't do it. They're on drugs. They come from broken homes. They have psychological disabilities of various kinds. They're uneducated because they couldn't make it through school. They have emotional problems. It's not going to work for the vast majority of people. What you need for the vast majority of people is a mixed strategy. Tell the person, I want you to work 15 hours a week. And 10 hours a week, I want you to go to detox procedures. And 10 hours a week, I want you to study things. And 10 hours a week, I want you to play ball because you need recreation in order to loosen yourself up. That guy, and you got to pay him a living wage. You want to help him. But he's only working 15 hours a week. This is strict justice together with mercy. That's how you maximize the benefit for the population as a whole. So, the Midrash says, God first thought to create the world with strict justice, saw that it wouldn't stand, meaning the vast majority of people aren't going to make it, and associated mercy with strict justice, so that it becomes a hybrid system. So the very few, various sources point out, very few can be still judged with strict justice. Those are going to make it. And those who are not going to make it get some strict justice together with mercy to keep them in business. So that's how mercy comes into the picture. Now, that's all in the literature. I add the following thought. Why am I separating it? Because what's in the literature is in the literature. What I add is only by addition. So, you would be a little less confident about that. I add, when this judgment is made, but I want the project to succeed, and if I do it with strict justice, although the quality will be top, the quantity will be so small that it has to be changed, who's talking? Well, it's loving kindness talking again. Only the first move of loving kindness is to create a situation where the gift will have top quality. And the second action of loving kindness is to maximize the quantity. And that when you maximize the quantity, then the motivation is, I don't want all these people to fail. Because strict justice will just cast them aside. I don't want them to fail. And that's how I understand rachamim. Mercy is, but I don't want you to fail. Mercy is an exquisite expression of love, but not the love that creates the highest quality gift, but the love that says, I don't want you to be lost. Yeah, this has lots and lots of consequences as well. But that's the background to what you asked. That's where it comes from. Yes, in the back.
So, just to clarify, like the hashkafa is for the individual that I'm a slave to God and I'm happy to serve in an ideal situation.
I'm not quite understood your question. Let's hear it again.
Before you said we were slaves to God.
Right.
So should our hashkafa be, I am a slave to God, and I'm happy to do it?
Oh yes, you certainly should. Let me give you 2 examples. Imagine that Pablo Picasso puts out a WhatsApp, I need an assistant for a year. What will the assistant do? He'll wash my brushes and set up my easel and procure the paints. And from time to time, if he paints something in his spare time, I'll look at it and I'll comment. But he'll travel with me where I'm going, and he'll get up when I get up in the morning, go to sleep when I go to sleep in the evening, and right? I'll tell him what to do. So that means that essentially he's become a slave to Picasso. Could you imagine any aspiring painter who will take that and give up his freedom that way? They'll be licking his boots to get that position. Picasso? Spend a year with Picasso? Now, I'll give you another example. I don't know if you know about instrumental, orchestral music, but let's say you're a violinist in an orchestra. So, first of all, there are the notes that the composer put into the music. You have to play that note. But then there's a guy called the concertmaster, the first violinist, and he tells all the violins what to do. You're playing this note, play it on this string. Many notes can be played on more than one string. Play it on this string. Furthermore, in the violin, you can play a note on an up bow or a down bow. Make it an up bow. And everybody makes it an up bow. And then there's vibrato. You shake the thing and the sound wiggles. How much vibrato? How fast? How deep? This fast, this deep. You get exact prescription how to play the note. Obey or get fired. Would anybody do that freely? Surely they're all in chains, right? People playing in orchestras? Not really, because they're playing Beethoven. When you have a conductor, when you have a concertmaster, the Beethoven is magnificent. And it's magnificent because everybody follows orders. That's why it's magnificent. So you say, I want to play Beethoven, I'm going to do what I'm told. Because that's what it takes to play great Beethoven. Now, I know I'm not speaking to that audience here, but who knows who's listening to the tape. Let's say you want to defend your country against an aggressor. The only efficient way to do that is join the army, and you will take orders in the army. When the Second World War was going on, there were people in America who were not eligible for the army who begged to be accepted into the army to fight the Nazis. They're going to feel chafing at the bit because they're taking orders? No, that's how you're going to defeat the Nazis. So the fact that you are given orders doesn't mean that you're in an unfortunate position, an unenviable position. It depends upon what the goal is and what the means are. When you play football, you'll have a coach, you'll have a quarterback, and if you're a linebacker, you'll do what you're told. You'll hit the line there, and the dimensions of your shoulders will be this way, and your head will be that way, and you'll push that guy to the ground. Because that's what you were told to do. That's what makes 11 people into a team that wins games. So I think that if you're given partnership with the creator of the world in perfecting the world, yes, you should say, that's worth it to take orders, and I'm very happy that I'm in position to take those orders and participate in that project. There's nothing greater in life that a person could do. I think you said it very well. Okay, so that's page 8. Now, what we're going to start on Sunday, Yis Hashem, is a look at the part 3, chapter 17, a part of that chapter in the Guide of the Perplexed. In that chapter, I won't even say it. In that chapter, the Maimonides goes through the idea of providence in general, and he considers 5 theories of providence. The first is an idiotic theory that no one holds, that everything is chance. Everything that happens by chance, there's no rule or order or causality that has in the universe. He says, if you say that, we don't talk to you anymore. You just look and see all the regularity that there is and all the structure is in the universe. Obviously, it's not all by chance. Then he describes Aristotle's theory, and then he describes 2 of the contemporary Muslim theories that existed at his time. And then he comes to what he calls the 5th theory. 5th theory is the theory of our Torah. And after that, he says, I'm going to describe to you my theory. Oh, wow, listen to that. There's a theory, yeah, you got There's the theory of the Torah, and then there's my theory. The that means it's a sixth theory and it's something which is different from the other one. He disagrees with the Torah. No, that's not what it means. Because we're reading this in English. I don't know how to translate it from the Arabic, but Rabbi Matalan does. He's an expert at it. So what he means is there's the Torah's theory, and I have an explanation of my own how the Torah's theory works. So it's not a separate theory. And he clearly distinguishes them. He first lays out what the Torah says about providence, and then in a separate section he says, here's how I think it works, here's what I think the background of it is. So we're really going to study what he calls the fifth theory, and we'll see what its details are. Now, the plain text is the Rambam's words, and the bold text is my words, and they're interspersed, and we'll go through it piece by piece. If you get hold of the guide, you want to read it beforehand, and so on and so on. It's a great idea. I will tell you, I believe the best English translation, best is only comparative. Beware of comparative judgments. Is Friedlander's, even though it's very old. There are later ones that came into existence, and I may not know all of them, but his is certainly better than the University of Chicago one. When I deal with the Rambam, I use various translations. My axiom is the Rambam has to make sense. And if I'm in trouble, I ask Rabbi Matalan, how to translate the passage, and then I do it that way. So we'll go through it in care. Some of the things I told you were preludes, but now we'll see it in the language of the Rambam himself, and we'll try to explain it in detail, where it's coming from and how it applies. And I hope that it'll be enlightening. In the meantime, have a wonderful Shabbos.